Good morning, Brownsville. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're watching this feed. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Frank Olivo. Our program focuses on the very important issues that are affecting our local community. We have shed light on injustices and we've allowed for our platform, this mic, to be that of the voice of the people. Now, if this is something that you can see yourself supporting, well, we ask that you be part and join the cause. Currently, right now, this live program is being streamed across all of our social media platforms. We encourage you to follow them. On X, formerly known as Twitter, and on Facebook, we could be found under Frankie Olivo. Make sure you follow our personal page also on Face. We could be found under Olivo Frankie. But more importantly, if you haven't already, create a Gmail account, go to YouTube, like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel titled Frankie Olivo TV. It's free. Remember, Brownsville, I will never ever ask you for money. I will never ever ask you for food. Well, now with the holidays coming, depends what you're making. All I ask of my community is something very simple. Be part of the cause. Support, follow, and subscribe to our social media platforms. We could be found under Frankie Olivo TV on YouTube. It's free. Always remember, we will not be silenced. And also, Brownsville, thank you so much to each and every one of you for the time and attention that you provide us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. How we doing, chat? How we doing? Happy Monday. I hope each and every one of you had an eventful, a restful weekend. Get ready to start the new week on the right foot. Let's do everything possible to get everything off the desk. Let's accomplish some goals before holidays. We have 2 weeks before Turkey, a time when we will be spending it with our loved ones. So I hope this week and the next is productive for each and every one of you. It seems as if the year is almost over. 40 days. 40 days, the number 40 is a very, very interesting number. We find that number in the Bible. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights when Noah built that ark. Jesus of Nazareth was tempted when he roamed the desert for 40 days and 40 nights, when he was ultimately tempted by the devil with riches and more. 40 days, ladies and gentlemen, it took for the government to open up. We titled today's program, Democrats Cave In, the federal government to reopen. The reopening of the federal government, it does mark the end of a shutdown period during which many government operations were suspended due to finding lapses or political gridlock. When the government reopens in the next few days, federal government employees will return back to work. Agencies resume their normal services and duties. Delayed programs such as processing of benefits, permits, public services, they will begin once again to be in operation. The reopening often follows the passage of a continuing resolution or a new budget agreement by Congress, signed into law by the President of the United States. While it restores stability and confidence in federal operations, the aftermath of a shutdown, it can leave lingering effects on the economy, on government efficiency, and public trust in political leadership. Um, it has been a long, a long 40 days. And I don't want you to misconstrue. Many people always attack the platform and say, oh, you're biased. You're only reporting one side, not the other. What has become apparent, at least to me, and you're more than welcome to chat here and counter my arguments. It has become apparent that the priority of the previous administration, when Joe Biden was at the helm, was priorities, benefits were given to those non-citizens. And I know whenever we talk about this is a very serious issue. At the end of the day, this is a humanitarian issue, and we don't want to seem cold-hearted, especially on this issue. We're all in favor of immigration reform. The system is broken. But what we saw these past 4 years was an open border administration, an open border policy, which allowed thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of illegals into this country. We saw on the tube in states such as New York and others where they were given thousands of dollars, they were given food benefits, their hotels were paid for, they received a cell phone. Many opportunities that we would think and hope would be directed and invested into the American people was not. What we saw from President Trump's appointment to his second term was his quick and swift action in regards to fixing what the previous administration had brought upon the country. Here locally, and we have seen this throughout the country, but here locally, one of the big issues that many in the Rio Grande Valley are facing is deportations. Our ICE, our immigration customs enforcement agencies deporting non-illegals. That has been a hot topic. It has possibly caused for the president of the United States to be voted against. Usually, whenever the first year, the 2 years, the 3 years, they start, letting us know how the American people feel about his tenure. But nonetheless, the shutdown of the federal government has shown, in my opinion, of what it has been for our legislators, for those in power. We will talk about today in regards to what's to expect, what happened during the federal shutdown, just to give you a better insight into what happened and what there is to expect. Good morning, Roman. How's your day going?
It's going okay. I thought we were starting at 9:30. I'm sorry I'm late then. Yeah, it's been going good. Getting conversation about what happened this weekend locally in the Republican Party, and people turning their campaign, turning their applications for a place on the ballot. That has been fun this weekend, and watching a little bit of sports, but not as much as I wanted to. So how was your weekend?
It was good. It was restful. It was eventful. All in all, it was something that I needed. In regards to the federal shutdown, Roman, what's your take on this? Many people have criticized both parties. What's your take on these past 40 days?
Well, first off, the government's not reopened yet, just because apparently Democrats have to do all these other deals and stuff. But it'll supposedly going to happen in the next couple days, because again, Democrats want to make federal workers work for free, which is why if you look at the bottom of underneath my name, I'm saying stop pro-slavery Democrats, because the Democratic Party has always been the party of slavery, and I thought maybe they had moved past that, that idea of slavery, but apparently the last 4 days they want federal workers. Many of them are voters of the Democratic Party because, well, they're dumb and stupid that work in the federal government, and they're union members, and apparently they're okay with working for free, maybe, but maybe that's why they finally caved. The Democrats finally caved, or whether it's just the fact that you have the election happened, and on Tuesday they got what they wanted. They got their major win. They had Hispanics decide that they wanted to vote against, the president in New Jersey or Virginia. You had bigger wins than they otherwise would have. They got what they wanted. You have to admire, in a way, the crassness of the Democratic Party to make people go hungry for 40 days, have to work for free for 40 days, at the crassness of them to be able to get what they want, because politics for them, for Democrats, is the number one thing. You don't care about anything else. It is their religion. So it shouldn't surprise anyone that the Democrats wanted everyone to work for free, and they have. And we're not just talking about law enforcement, whether it's Border Patrol, CBP, them working for free, but it's also people that work in the federal judiciary. I don't know. I mean, we probably have some people that watch us in the federal courthouse here in Brownsville that watch us or have heard of us. I mean, they've been working for 40 days for free as well. It's not just the evil, nasty people that want to deport your abuela or abuelito. It's them as well. And so I hope people realize that there's a lot of people, millions of people that went hungry. They had to show up to work. It's not just the air traffic controllers. It's not just the TSA officers that have to show up for work for free. I mean, how many people did not pay their car bill on time this week because they essentially live paycheck to paycheck because they don't know how to save their own money. There was a lot of problems. It's not just about the people that live on food stamps or snaps. The supposed people that the Democrats care about. That they went to court to demand that Trump feed them. Well, where were these same Democrats that didn't want to feed military families? They weren't there for them. They weren't there for federal workers. They were only there for people who live off the public tit. That's all they cared about. And even then, they didn't have the money for that. But it was the Democratic Party's fault. They're the pro-slavery party. That's what they have been. They always will be. They should be embarrassed. So the government's not open yet, but it will be supposedly this week, thanks to some moderate Democrats who finally got what they wanted, which was a vote that it's probably not even going to pass anyway. And even then, I don't know, Frankie, if you've been following this, they want the vote to happen in December because they want people to feel the pain. They want voters to feel the pain of their health insurance premiums going up because Obamacare has been an utter freaking failure. It didn't lower your healthcare costs. You work in the healthcare industry. Are you seeing people feel the pain already with Obamacare?
Yes, 1000%. If you follow my page, we did post about it this weekend. Yes.
No, I mean, I do follow your page, but I'm just saying, what are your thoughts on that? Everything going up.
Yes. Again, these past 40 days, what culminated last night was something that was very disheartening because at the end of the day, we understand that many people rely on, social programs. And one thing that this has turned into was that the American people were left on a limb. The Democratic Party throughout these past 40 days were blaming, it's the Republicans. They control the House, they control the Senate, they control the presidency. They are in control of the government. They are the ones that are causing children to starve. And it's always with the emotions. And for us, the common folk, if you aren't really aware of the process of how things work, that the magical number is 60, you would think, oh man, the evil Republicans, they are the ones that don't want to are against feeding the poor and giving assistance to those in need. This was a political ploy. That's what it has turned into, unfortunately. And yesterday, there were some Democrats that did ultimately cave in and voted in favor of this. It was a strategy. It was a Democratic strategy that ultimately hurt the American people. What's sad is that they were fighting for something that was not going to benefit the American people. One of the biggest arguments that the Democrats had when this started was the subsidies for Obamacare. That has been one of the topics of discussions. Our healthcare system is rigged. It doesn't favor the common folks. It was written into law to favor the big insurance companies, hospitals, doctors, clinics. They are the ones that primarily benefit from it. So these past few weeks, I have been posting in regards to these very serious issues because, I have clients that have ultimately said, you know what, you can't help me. I'm going to see how I can find, better healthcare coverage through my employer because of the premiums. It's becoming unbearable. I see this on a day-to-day basis. I understand what people go through. So for Democrats to place the blame on the Republican Party is disheartful because they could have done this exactly what was done last night. They could have done this a day in, a week in, but no, they waited until election Tuesday came around. Am I surprised of what transpired throughout the country in states like Virginia, New Jersey? Not really, because when you really think about it, it is predominantly, for the most part, Democratic states. So it's not a shocker. But again, they made this issue of the government shutdown into a political issue. They wanted the common folks to feel the pain, to feel the urgency with the lingo of blame the Republicans. So I'm glad that this consensus has been made. And when you really think about it, the Democratic Party didn't win. They didn't get ultimately what they wanted. The only consensus that the Republicans gave up was the vote. That's not even going to guarantee that's going to pass. So it is disheartening that we have people playing the politics game that ultimately affects the livelihoods of millions of people, Roman, and that's where I'm having trouble, digesting this even after last night.
Mm. The Democrats that voted in favor of this deal, one of them is Dick Durbin from Illinois. You people who don't follow politics have to understand that he is the minority leader's assistant deputy. That's who he is. He is the second in command behind Chuck Schumer. He's not voting for this without the permission of Chucky. Chucky did a whole show yesterday on the Senate floor, like, oh, why are we making this deal? Why are you doing this? Like, we didn't get what we wanted. It's all kabuki freaking theater with that guy. You know that he gave permission. Okay, y'all. I'm just letting you know. You don't come up for election in 2026, so you are in 2028 and you are in 2030. You got to vote this way. And sorry, you're gonna do this. I know we made people like go hungry. We know people lost their car payments, their mortgages. We know we did all these bad things, but we won on Tuesday. So now it's time to come to the table, and you're the sacrificial lambs. You're the ones who are gonna vote in favor of this. You had Bernie Sanders, Bernie Sanders getting all mad or like that on the Senate floor, but it's all kabuki theater. You're the ones who are gonna make the deal. You're gonna vote this way. It's okay. I'll protect you. Daddy's gonna love you anyway. And that's what they did. It's not anything other than they're not centrist. They're not middle of the road people. They like to pretend that way, but they're not. They're really not. They're just political players. They're political pawns in Chuck Schumer's little game. Again, there's no way that Dick Durbin is voting for this thing without permission of his boss. That is how it works. I know there's some politician out there, even locally, who like to say, "Oh, no one tells me how to vote. I vote the way I want to vote." Bullshit. You vote the way your leadership tells you to vote, or when they give you permission to vote that way. Whether it's in the state Senate, state House, whether it's in Congress. That's the way it's done. That's how you get stuff done as a legislator. You have to be a team player. So that's what happened last night. Nothing other than a stage to let's do it on Sunday. I mean, I think you posted that John Cornyn wasn't even there somehow and it got to 60-40. I don't even know how that happened if he wasn't there. Yeah, so that was kind of shocking to me that you posted last night that he wasn't there. You would have thought he would have been there on the weekend, considering that the Senate had been voting nonstop, pretty much the last last few months. The last month, I should say. Anyway, so that's what happened. Again, the election's over. They got what they wanted. They got their big wins. Congratulations. You won in big blue states. Congratulations. And now CNN can move on from talking about the poor people that are suffering and doing the interviews. CNN, the MSNBC. Now they can move on to the next topic the mainstream media wants to talk about. And apparently it's Trump pardons. That's what CNN wants to talk about now. Trump pardoned people last night. Let's do a whole interview with a story, a reporter from the New York Times talking about how unfair the prison is in Ecuador and not Ecuador in El Salvador, and let's talk to those bad people from Venezuela that had to suffer the pain and suffering. That's what CNN's going to move on to. It's just the next topic, next show, in order to make the Trump administration look bad. They've spent 15 minutes today talking about the Supreme Court and their refusal to take up a case that nobody really thought they were going to take up anyway. And let's talk about that. It's what the mainstream media does. It's what they're going to do.
It was funny yesterday because these Democrat senators they did speak to the media last night, and these are the people who ultimately help keep the shutdown alive. But it was funny because they did admit something. They
Mm.
admitted that they caved because their strategy had completely collapsed. We had Senator King who told reporters that the reason why he voted for the compromise was because it just wasn't working. He acknowledged that the Democrats, they had zero chance of getting what they wanted of their ACA demands, to maybe make it 50-50. He was pressed. A reporter did ask him, well, then how do you explain to your constituents why was this worth fighting? Putting up a fight for 40 days, so long, when in the end you didn't get what you were demanding, the key goals that you wanted. And he said, because it wasn't working. So in other words, it's been 6 weeks. The Republicans had made it very clear that they weren't going to discuss the health care issue, the Affordable Care Act, the tax credits, until the shutdown was over. They wanted them to negotiate after the shutdown was the federal government was reopened. So it's interesting. It's interesting for us to learn that what happened yesterday ultimately was something that was just a political ploy, and the agreement between the parties. What it ultimately did was extended the federal government to January the 30th. It reversed Trump's federal worker layoffs. The food stamps, they will run through year 2026, and guarantees for the Senate to vote on the ACA Obamacare subsidies in December. Is there a way, Roman, for the Democrats to spin this and say, hey, we got something done? Or does it make people like Schumer, like Bernie, like AOC, individuals that are very critical, does it make them look bad?
I don't think they care. They're crass individuals. They're politicians by nature. They don't care about um, the suffering. For them, the suffering is their only leverage. They need to make you, the American people, suffer. They need to make federal workers suffer in order for you all to move. That's a typical leftist ploy. You don't see Republicans do that. You don't see conservatives do that because that's not how they do politics. They never have done that. But Democrats, on the other hand, they want you to suffer. That's why they are the pro-slavery Democrats. They want individuals to be in chains, working in the fields. They want being not working day in, day out, no breaks. That is what Democrats have always been. That is why they pit Hispanics against blacks, against Asians, in order to have them fight, because for them it's almost a cockfight. It's joy for them. They get a kick out of it. That's what they are. And I don't think people realize this. I got a guy who's a massive leftist that likes to comment, one of the union people here locally. He says I'm deranged just because, I pointed out that Democrat, now that the government shutdown is over or almost over, you have to ask yourself, do you know a federal worker? Are you a friend with a federal worker? Are you a family member? Do you have a family member that works in the federal government? They've been going hungry. Have you had to help them? Have you had to provide them some food? Have you invited them over? You had to help them because of what Democrats did. And he says, I'm deranged. And I'm like, no, the derangement is the Democratic Party who supported this for 40 days. They could have gotten, just like that guy, Senator King, the independent, quote unquote, independent from Maine. He's just like, I realized last week that when I talked to my Republican colleagues and they told me there was zero chance they were going to do this vote, whether in 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, they were zero chance. He knew this 5 weeks ago. They've known this for 40 freaking days. They've known this, and they didn't. They're like, all of a sudden, el foco se prende with this little white liberal, old man liberal from Maine. Finally, like, se prendió el pinche foco, and like, oh, you mean to tell me you're never going to vote on this until we end the shutdown? Well, golly, I guess I mean I have to vote this way. I mean, that's what these people do. They knew this. They didn't care. They wanted the election. They wanted people in California to be angry to come out and vote a certain way for that redistricting plan. They wanted them, poor people to be angry. And Republicans didn't feel the need to go vote for whatever reason. Trump wasn't on the ballot. They weren't interested in voting. There was no push for it because have Republicans right now, has Trump and the Republicans in Washington or the Republicans in those individual states motivated people to go vote for them. Have grocery prices come down? I believe they have. I mean, there was a story yesterday that showed that Thanksgiving dinner is cheaper this year than it was last year. So prices have come down. A lot yesterday. I pumped in some gas here locally, and it was $2.30. That was lower than it was a year ago. Things have come down, but have we really promoted it? No. Have we really shown to people that prices have come down? That we are trying to make food affordable again? Or is it that the mainstream media doesn't talk about that? There was a story today, I think it was on MSNBC or CNN or one of those PMS programs or whatever they do. They were talking about how the median age for a homeowner in this country, first time homeowner, is 40 years old. 40. Can you believe that? 40 years old is the median age before you can have for first time homeowners in this country. We can't live like that. The American dream is impossible if you're barely buying a house for the first time at the age of 40. You might not even be able to have kids by the age of 40. Like that's the median age. That means there are people probably in their 50s that are barely buying their house. Where are your kids gonna live? That means they've been living either paycheck to paycheck. They've been living in apartments, renting houses. That's not the way to live. I was talking to a finance guru here in Brownsville a couple of weeks ago over in Rancho Viejo, and he was telling me that it's cheaper in Brownsville to rent now than it is to buy a house. That's not right. We cannot live like that. Whether we live in a lower income area like Brownsville or whether it's in the rest of the United States, people should be able to want to be able to buy a home. People should want to be able to start a family. People should want to be able to get married, but they don't do it for whatever reason. They'd rather live with mommy and daddy, or they want to live with their brothers and sisters. They want to live in the same house. They don't, because it's cheaper for them. And that's apparently what's happening to people in their late 30s. That's not normal. They're closer to death. Why did I say that? Because if you're 40 years old, what's the life expectancy in the United States? It's in the 75, 76 years old? That's crazy. It's crazy talk. Yeah.
Yeah, life has been getting expensive when we talk about the basic necessities. Now it's something, it seems like a luxury now. Before it was just the way of life. Now it seems like it's something that's unobtainable, which is very very scary. What also bothered me, Roman, was that nobody wanted to say the elephant in the room. We did have somebody like Senator Fetterman from Pennsylvania. He stated, again, going back to the number 60, people were saying, "Oh, it's President Trump and SNAP and increase the subsidies, extend the subsidies." But if we look at the way the votes came in, for 14, 15 times, the Democrats voted against it. They were so gun-ho on this idea that healthcare for all was something that they were not going to budge. Fetterman, what I like about Fetterman is that he's able to read the room. Even though he is a Democrat, he has said positive things about President Trump and his administration. He has been vocal against some things of the previous administration. Late last night, he did post on his ex Twitter page, and he states, "I'm sorry to the military, SNAP recipients, government workers, Capitol Police who haven't been paid. It should never have come to this. This was a failure." So again, he's taking accountability, something that people such as Schumer isn't. And again, this was a heated discussion because at the end of the day, what they were fighting for, as much as people do not want to admit it, do not want to hear it, was healthcare for all. We cannot continue funding something such as Obamacare that has proven not to be effective. You mean to tell me that in 15 years we are needing to fund and extend and create credits and invest more in subsidies in order for the American worker, American family could have obtainable, affordable insurance. To me, it doesn't make sense, and it's sad whenever people aren't realizing this. Yesterday, we said how the big insurance companies, they own the politicians. I found it funny, Roman, because on Saturday, and look, say what you want about President Trump. I like the way the guy thinks. He thinks outside the box. And look, he's not a popular character. I admit, you either love him or you hate him. But on Saturday, he posted something on social media that was very to me, it was very telling, because he said something which I believe caused DC to freak out, because what the Democrats were requesting was to extend the ACA subsidies and give anywhere from 35 to 40 billion dollars to these insurance companies. And look, I'm all about competition. Here in the city of Brownsville, we have been very vocal, and it seems like this is an endless battle against an entity such as the Public Utility Board for the city. Many people, I think, are in agreement that we do want competition. We do want to open up the field. Why? Because the more vendors we have, the more services out there will ultimately set a new market that will lower down the cost. What was funny about what President Trump posted on Saturday, Roman, I think caused the politicians to freak out, because he said, okay, Democrats, y'all are so gun-ho on this issue of ACA. You want us to extend the subsidies that will give 35, 40 billion to the insurances. Well, how about we give this money to the people? Why not we give them the option? That started to freak everyone out, because, again, who controls these politicians? The insurance companies. They are one of the biggest lobbyists in the Capitol. So by throwing out this idea, Roman, that, hey, well, maybe we should give the money to the people. And look, I had people going on the page these past few days and say, are you stupid? Do you not know that people are going to spend that money and they're going to show up to the ER with no credits, with no money? I was like, but that's what we want, right? I would think that everybody could come into an agreement that big government does not benefit your life. Do we really want somebody controlling our everyday life? Now, this idea of giving money back to the people, it possibly won't be cash. It could possibly be a health savings account where you have credits, where you have, the opportunity. Think of it like a school voucher. That's the way I thought of it. Here's your money. You find the school that best fits your child's needs and expectations. Get at it. Same thing with healthcare. Look, this is broken. This is not working. The prices are skyrocketing. The insurances are benefiting. Here's a health savings account. Here's a credit. Here's money. You go figure it out. That ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, will create a new market. So to me, Roman, I thought this was genius, because you're throwing this out there for the people themselves to benefit. And look, say what you want. President Trump is coming through on his agenda of America first. I got into some heated debates on our platform because, people were criticizing me and saying, oh, you don't care. Do you even understand the way the Obamacare works? ACA works? I'm like, kinda. I'm an insurance broker. I deal with this on a day-to-day basis. I'm not saying that I'm a freaking expert in the thing, because it is complex, but I do have a background behind it that I deal with every day. So I think I have an idea. So, again, I will not be quiet about this when I say that the previous administration favored illegals. This president, what I like is America first. Okay, Democrats, you want money back into the pockets of the people that created this problem? Well, I'll give it to the people. So it was mind-boggling, Roman, whenever I got people arguing and saying, oh, you don't care. The people are going to spend their money. Who cares? Worry about your household. The way the people do with their money, at the end of the day, life is all about choices. But I did like how President Trump threw that out there, Roman. And I think, in my opinion, that was one of the main reasons for them to come back and say, you know what, this isn't going nowhere. Let's reopen up the government.
I'm not. I'm not sure if it was the impetus for reopening the government. I think people predict, so some people are predicting that this weekend when they were finally going to cave. But yeah, I mean, obviously it stirred a lot of people. You had CNN asking this morning Senator King what he thought about it. He's like, oh, I haven't even read it. I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't know nothing. I was like, no, but he just said he wants to give it to them. Like, well, I mean, premiums are really expensive. I don't know how only $2, $3, $4,000 is going to cover the premium. And like, I think the point of it is to give people the choice. I think the point of it is to lower premiums because insurance companies can't just overcharge for it because they already know, oh, the government's going to come and give us a subsidy. I'll point out to this. Back in the day, back when I was in college, one of the things that I was have a very strong opinion about was the rising cost of student fees and student services at UTBTSC. I thought the cost of tuition was skyrocketing. And part of the problem was you had people that sat on the Texas Southmost College Board of Trustees that wanted to continue to raise tuition. And I vividly remember hearing the chairwoman of the board at the time say, well, it doesn't really matter if we raise the tuition when we have like 80-90% of our students get their money from Pell Grants. And if the government's going to pay for it, it doesn't really matter. And that is the mindset of government. That is the mindset of these people at college, whether it's a UT system or A&M system or a Texas Southmost College or anywhere. They want to raise tuition because they know at the end of the day, if they raise prices, Pell Grant goes up. They raise prices, Pell Grant goes up, and it's just a never-ending game of increasing the cost of stuff. And that's kind of what happens with Obamacare right now. With these insurance companies, they're continuing to raise it. They know the government's going to come in and cover them. They raise it, they're going to cover it. And that is the game. That is what happens when you have government being involved in something they have no business being involved in. Government has no business being involved in the private healthcare industry. And they did this because because Obama wanted this. Every Democrat voted for this. We Republicans, we conservative Republicans, I've been a Republican a long time. We talked about this. We were concerned about it. This is not going to solve the prices, the price increases of health insurance. It's not the solution. And yet they did it anyway. And 15 years down the road, we now know that we were right. And so that's why your tuition has gone up at colleges because of Pell Grants. That's why your insurance is going up because of Obamacare. It's just that simple.
You make an interesting point. It's never ending. When you said that, Roman, I thought about how here locally at the Brownsville Independent School District, the main topic and will possibly always be is teacher raises. Right before Christmas, we're coming around that time, Roman, where many teachers unions are going to be questioning, are you going to give the teachers a raise? Are you going to give us something? Are you going to throw us a bone right before the holidays?
Mm-hmm.
And I always, again, if we were able to pay the teachers what they were worth, we wouldn't be able to afford them. But what is interesting about this issue, Roman, is and again, you made a very great point. Whenever teachers get raises, the last time I think was it 750, Roman? Was it 1,000? It was in that range. I want to say. I think the lowest that they've gone was 500.
Mm-hmm.
But after taxes, Roman, after the insurance premiums goes up, does the staff, the teacher at BISD, do the staff really actually see the increase? No. Ultimately, what happens is what? It's a wash. So while it looks good on paper, while it's good for the board members to tap their backs on their shoulder and say, "Oh, I did something good." Well, essentially, you ended up just giving more money to the insurance companies. That's what happens here locally at BISD. Because whenever the teachers get a raise, lo and behold, their insurance goes up, or there's a change in provider, in carrier. So it happens here locally, something that we have heard about, and it does happen at the state and at the federal level. I think there has to be some sort of common ground whenever we talk about all the issues. And look, whenever we talk about SNAP, look, ladies and gentlemen, a large majority of my clients depend on these types of benefits. I'm all in favor of them, but when we see an increase from $17 billion to $40 billion on SNAP benefits from and during President Biden's administration, we have to ask and wonder: are people in need really using these benefits? Are they receiving these benefits because they are really in need? Why is there a large increase? Look, again, I am all in favor of these programs. I would be a hypocrite if I said that they were bad. Again, a large majority of my clients are disabled, are elderly. They do rely on these programs that are out there. Another thing, Roman, that I want to talk about, maybe on another topic, as a layman, just looking out, is I like what our Secretary of Health, Kennedy, what he's doing. When we talk about SNAP and assistance, yes, I knew, but now even more so, people could get unhealthy foods. You're talking about Doritos, Takis, Cokes, things high with sugar. What does that ultimately do, Roman, to our body? It affects our body. It causes us to develop chronic illnesses down the road. So, what I like about this administration is that it has focused on addressing America's needs, and America's needs moving forward, primarily whenever we help eliminate those products that aren't beneficial to our bodies. We should keep everything green. We should keep everything organic, healthy. Let's stick to food products, not other. I wouldn't even dare say this, but here locally, and again, I might get in trouble and I may be very wrong, but I've heard of cases where the mom and pop stores, they sell beer using freaking these EBTs and other things. Does it happen? Yes. Is it common? I wouldn't go that far. But once we fix things like that, you know, in the future, it's going to help alleviate and address our problems with our insurance, because they are a lot of people that have underlying conditions that whenever they try pre-existing conditions, whenever they try to obtain health care or some sort of product that's going to benefit them in the long run, whether that be cancer, whether that be hospital indemnity or any other service that they're requesting, they're not able to qualify. Why? Because they have an underlying condition. That's one of the things that we can fix moving forward. So to the average person, to me, on the outside, maybe I might think, oh, the Republicans, they hate the common folks. They really do. There are many people critical of people that are on welfare because, unfortunately, there's always someone that's going to ruin it for everybody. There's people, Roman, that sell 2 for 1. Hey, give me $100. Here's $200 worth of food stamps. Does everybody do it? No, but there are people that out there that do. So I like the direction in which this administration is going, Roman. When we talk about our health department leadership with Kennedy, he is addressing those issues, which ultimately we're not going to see the effects of it until 20, 30, 40 years down the line. But eventually what we're going to is a healthier lifestyle for these people on these assistant programs, which to me is ultimately going to benefit them in the long run.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. There's a good thing of making America healthy again. A couple of things that you pointed out earlier having to do with BISD. That way, some of those people that want to talk about BISD, because I'm sure people are so interested in that, they better not give the teachers a stipend for Christmas. There better be a vote. I mean, because in order to do the stipend, you're gonna have to go into the fund balance. And remember, we have the Golden Girl really cares about the fund balance, and you had what's his name, Blackie Locks, Frank Ortiz voting against everything because we can't go into the fund balance. There better be no vote on the Christmas bonus this year because you can't afford it. BISD, the taxpayers cannot afford it because there's what 5,000 employees or something. That we can do the math. Maybe you give them $1,000 for 5,000 employees. What, that's $500,000 or what's the number? 5,000 what $5 million? That $5 million. I don't know what they 500. That's a lot of money. So $5 million taking out the fund balance to be able to give them to make you feel good to give them $1,000, or if it's only you know $500, you're half $2.5 million. We can't afford it. If people were complaining and people on the board were complaining about doing $350,000 for a forensic audit, they better be upset and concerned about spending millions of dollars on giving them a Christmas bonus or Christmas stipend or a holiday stipend or end of year stipend, whatever they want to call it. They better not do it because we cannot afford it. Especially those people that are concerned about the insurance cost that went up 2% or whatever. Like, you better vote against this thing because we cannot afford it. BISD cannot, because they have roofs that need to be fixed, HVACs that need to be repaired. You have deciding on what schools to close. So I really hope that people that they don't bring up this vote. But I have no doubt in my mind that Minerva Peña and Carlos Elizondo will put it on the agenda for December, or even at the meeting where they discuss who the board attorney is going to be. Don't be surprised if those two are the ones that put it on there because they care, and then you're going to try to make everybody else look bad by putting it on the agenda. Be smarter than this. You can't afford it. Don't do it. And the other thing you were talking about, when it comes to make America healthy again, there is a massive cost to hospitals and doctors and things like that having to treat all of these cancers, and you're going to end up at a point where decisions will have to be made whether if somebody's in ICU, do we really want to give them more health care? It costs more money. People are going to have to make these kinds of determinations, and I think it's there's something to be said for what the Trump administration is doing when it comes to making Americans healthy again. And I'm glad that he's doing it and trying to do that by not allowing SNAP money to go to Cokes, to making deals with the Coca-Cola about making real sugar in their drinks as opposed to high fructose corn syrup, which is not good, pretty bad. And stopping people from being able to buy chips and things like that with SNAP foods. But the other thing is the cost of these organic foods and whatnot to live healthy is really high. Can people really survive off of that kind of food when prices are really high, where you're not able to get enough to be able to sustain your family with SNAP benefits? That's something that we have to really look at. We need to be able to make sure that our farmers are willing to be able to grow the foods and help them so that we have food security in this country. I mean, everyone wants to talk about climate justice. Well, what about food security, food justice for Americans? Because if we can't supply our own food in this country and we have to depend on other countries to provide us that food, we become beholden to them. And then we become like Africa or Latin America that has to, get their food from elsewhere because they have to import more stuff. They're beholden to people. I mean, just look at 125 years ago. America dictated to Latin America what kind of things to grow. For example, like bananas, because we wanted bananas. And so we would, you're going to make bananas. You're going to grow bananas for us to be able to eat. It didn't benefit those countries because they don't want to always eat bananas. I think it's a problem, and that has to do with diplomacy. And I think the president of the United States is focused on so many different things, including making America healthy again.
Again, I'm glad this should have been done a long time ago. And B has a very interesting point. If you try to eat healthy, if you try to buy organic stuff, if you go to the Gucci HEB, you're talking about chicken costing $16, $20. for X amount of pounds or the weight compared to the bad chicken. The it's actually a no brainer to many people who aren't able to afford this. B says you make a good point. If the healthcare costs with eating poorly, kids eating Takis and hot Cheetos may get tooth decay and gastrointestinal issues. If they're on SNAP or Medicaid, then these kids get dentist treatment and medical treatment on the government dime. Exactly. So it's a good initiative to have, because whenever we focus on the food supply, whenever we make sure that, okay, you are under government assistance, we are not going. The way I like to see it is, we're going to help you be healthy. Simple as that. What I have learned in these past few years was, correct me if I'm wrong, Roman, but me, I always think about my health of my physique, of my body. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that if something was wrong with my mouth, with my teeth, that could lead to further complications. I didn't know that. If you don't address a certain issue, obviously it's going to get worse and it could lead to other complications. Our bodies are a network, right? And it's all integrated into one system, into one machine. What have we seen? And look, here in South Texas, predominantly, we live this on a day-to-day basis. We have individuals. We had Representative Lopez talk about how there was a need because there's a lot of diabetics, a lot of individuals that have orthopedic issues due to diabetes, eye vision problems because of their diabetic and chronic illnesses. So, if we were to start a trend, we could probably hope that the next generation, possibly the next 100 years, the future, is going to live a healthier lifestyle compared to what we are used to today. It's not something that's going to change from one day to the next, but ultimately it is a step in the right direction, because we are going to prevent these types of cases. And ultimately, Roman, whenever people are healthy, for the most part, they save money. Uh, uh, we always uh, we always preach about preventative care, because if you go the allocated time that you need in order to get checked, you could prevent other illnesses down the road. So I do like, again, make America healthy again, especially for our children. We could save money, but most importantly, we can really change the lives of the future generations. Roman, this weekend it was announced that President Trump, and again, another hot topic, Roman, for you to talk to me about. There was this idea that President Trump was planning a $520 billion stimulus package, which could come out to around $2,000 per person, for every United States citizen. President Trump is saying that America is wealthy due to tariffs. What's your position in regards to this? Is this something that would benefit the American people?
Well, no, I look, we had a situation with when COVID happened where Poppy Trump was giving out a bunch of money to everybody. And there was a cost later on for the economy and in many respects tanking, also just because COVID shut down the economy. And I'm not, we if we increase the debt of our federal government and it caused more problems for the economy. I'm not so sure that I'm in favor of giving out more money. I kind of oppose it at this point. I understand why he's doing tariffs, because tariffs need to happen in order to force companies to be able to build things and make things here in this country. I understand that it's going to take some time to for that to happen. It's not a snap of the finger overnight thing where and so I guess he's trying to figure out a way to make Americans understand what he's doing with tariffs, and somebody can argue that he's trying to buy the votes of the American people by giving them this free money. I'm not sure that's the right path. This was his idea. This was his government's idea. In order to do all these tariffs, you know, was this part of the plan? I don't know. I don't know if he's just thinking of, off the top of his head, or where he's coming from. But I don't support it. I support the president, obviously, but I do not like the idea of sending out, checks to people. And yeah, just where
the,
I'm at
the way
anyway.
the way I see it, and when we talk about tariffs, it is hard for us to understand the way it works. Many people have been critical because they say, oh, I'm paying more for Colombian coffee, I'm paying more for aguacates. And I say, okay, well, how many Colombian coffees have you been buying? How many hundreds, how many thousands of dollars have you seen that you've paid more for tariffs? Somebody said, oh, well, I paid $70 this month uh, based on tariffs. The idea of tariffs is to strengthen the American economy. Again, President Trump is fulfilling his promises where he said that Americans will always come first. Look at what we have seen during previous administrations. We have given the benefit to many outsiders, many non citizens. Many people obtained their citizenship because of imported employment, so to speak. The way I understand tariffs is that it is designed in a way for us to accomplish two things. Maybe I'm wrong. This is the way I see it. One, the main thing is to address the national debt. We want other countries, foreign nations, to pay for that national debt. What we have seen has been that people now are encouraged to buy American made products. People are saying, oh, well, I'm spending so much money on aguacate. Well, how many aguacates could you eat? Are you paying 10, 20, $30 more? To me, this is a benefit because if we go back and study the history, President Wilson was the one that got away from taxing, from receiving tariffs money from other countries. What we saw was that the financial complex was able to create the income tax, the Federal Reserve. Ever since then, the American people were being taxed on everything. The way I see it is, I'd rather have other countries, other nations be taxed. Let's focus on strengthening the American economy, providing American jobs, producing American goods. That way, it's a win-win situation. Again, is this going to happen from one administration to the next, from one year to the next? No, you're shocking the system. We're talking about deviating from Woodrow Wilson was what, Roman, 1918, the World War I, give or take. So that's a little bit over 100 years that we're going away from that strategy and starting and going back to raising tariffs on other countries. What I've seen has been that countries are paying their fair share now. Now, is this to appease someone like President Trump moving forward? Obviously, but it only benefits and strengthens the country. Again, the idea is to strengthen the economy, American jobs, buy American products, and eventually, maybe there is this idea that maybe we don't have to pay an income tax. That is something that many people would welcome because again, there is no question here locally. We just fought tooth and nail and being vocal about taxation from our local our local school district. I think people would welcome that idea. So you mean you're not going to tax me? I'm not going to have to pay an income tax. We're going to be able to pay for our infrastructure, for our national debt through something like a tariff that other countries are paying for. That to me sounds good. America first. But that's just me.
I think that's the argument to be made. Remember, Woodrow Wilson was probably our most racist president of the United States. He was a Democrat. He he allowed the KKK to march on the streets of Washington D.C. He was elected in 1912, and it was an accident that he was elected. The reason he was elected is because you had Theodore Roosevelt, who created his own party called the Bull Moose Party, to run against Woodrow Wilson and William Howard Taft. William Howard Taft had been the president, a Republican president, elected in 1908 after Theodore Roosevelt decided not to run for re-election. And so you had Taft who was a more conservative of the two. You had a very progressive, quote unquote, progressive Theodore Roosevelt, and you had a very, very progressive Woodrow Wilson. And because you had a three-person race, that's why Woodrow Wilson was elected. And he would never should have been elected. We should have either have been Taft or Woodrow or Theodore Roosevelt. And it was a very consequential election of 1912. Some people like to say, well, this is the most important election of our lifetime. I must say that the 1912 election is probably one of the top three elections in the history of this country. It in terms of the importance of what ends up happening because of it. And it all started because Theodore Roosevelt wanted to run. He could not get the nomination of the Republican Party at the Republican convention. And so he took his ball and went home and actually didn't go home. He started a new party. And so hopefully that doesn't happen in this country again. Anyway, there was, speaking of politics, and part of, you had brought up Cornyn on your page and how he allegedly didn't show up because he was in Texas. Over the weekend, I don't know if you saw this, Frankie, but there was a poll done in Texas of Republican primary voters of who they would vote for U.S. Senate. And U.S. Senate in Texas, this election in November next year is going to play a critical role in who controls the Senate next year, in the second half of the second term of President Trump's administration. There, you right now you have Senator Cornyn, who's been in office since I was in college, and he's been the senator for a long ass time. He's the senior senator of Texas. Many Republicans see him as a rhino, Republican in name only. He doesn't really necessarily support the president, supposedly. He makes stupid deals. That's what many grassroots Republicans believe about him. You have him, and then you also have Ken Paxton, who is the Texas Attorney General, who has his own, I guess, skeletons in his closet. He's going through a divorce with his wife, State Senator Angela Paxton, who filed for divorce earlier this year on biblical grounds, whatever that means. And I say whatever that means because I think it has something to do with adultery on the part of Attorney General Ken Paxton. So they're running against each other, and people believe that Ken Paxton is going to beat the ever living crap out of John Cornyn in the primary, but they're concerned that Ken Paxton won't be able to deliver the win in November of next year against either Colin Allred or James Tallarico, whoever becomes the nominee, or you never know. I think it's Jamie or Jade Crockett, the congresswoman from Houston, might jump in the race and cause a whole stir in the Democratic side. But so because you have this problem of they're concerned about Paxton and Cornyn's not performing well, Congressman Wesley Hunt jumped into the race. Wesley Hunt, who has endorsed Myra Flores for Congress in 34, he is very much a conservative, the black Republican. He jumped into the race sometime last month. He doesn't have the name ID that John Cornyn or Ken Paxton have, and yet, according to a poll that was released this week from people who are tied, from pollsters tied to Congressman Hunt, so you have to take it with a grain of salt, but it's I guess a reputable pollster. They're polling and claiming that Paxton would win, be in first place, and Wesley Hunt is in third place, but only 1 point behind John Cornyn with all that name ID. And he's basically, he would be statistically tied because the margin of error is 3.5%. So Hunt could actually be as high as 29.5, or he could be at 22.5. That's what that works. And Cornyn could be as high as 30.5 or as low as 23.5. That could be the range for those. So Hunt and John Cornyn are statistically tied. Hunt does not have the name ID that John Cornyn has. So there's room for him to grow and potentially overtake John Cornyn. And then John Cornyn would no longer be in the Senate after this next year if Wesley Hunt somehow overtakes John Cornyn and gets second place. and then they'll have a runoff between Wesley Hunt and Ken Paxton. So I think that's very interesting.
It is interesting because you made an interesting point when Attorney General Paxton, he's got a lot of baggage as of late, and he is still performing within his party better than a seasoned senator that is Cornyn. There is on the Democratic side worthy worthy candidates. I would be shocked, Roman, if Crockett does join into the race. I think it'd be best for her to focus on, but then again, her area is her position is coming up. But in regards to Paxton, what I found interesting and Cornyn in regards to this issue was that they were very critical of Hunt. Cornyn has stated that Wesley Hunt has missed over 280 votes, and then ironically, Cornyn himself almost missed the vote to reopen the government after leaving D.C. So again, for those individuals, if you've seen on TV, travel is chaotic right now. People are have been missing their flights. There've been multiple delays. It was said that last night Senator Cornyn was flying from Austin to DC, and because of the shutdown, his flight was delayed. So ultimately, here he was, Roman, being very critical of Wesley Hunt, of missing X amount of votes. And then he himself, at the moment of truth, when his vote needed, when his party needed him to come through, there was talks of, oh my goodness, what if he misses it? What if his flight just doesn't come in? It just caused a lot of questions, a lot of pandemonium happened yesterday, and it wasn't a good look, Roman. It wasn't a good look because the government, the those in leadership positions, they stayed to work over the weekend. It was something like we're gonna get it done. Why was he back in Texas? He probably had a family affairs or something within his district. But it just goes to show you that I feel, Roman, I feel as this Corden will not be our representative in Texas moving forward. I think it's apparent that either Paxton or someone in the Democratic Party will dethrone him in possibly in November. What's your take? Do you think he comes out of the primary, Roman?
I think right now, John Cornyn gets in third place.
Wow.
I think it's going to be the most expensive third place race. One of my good friends, Rolando Garcia, who is originally from the Rio Grande Valley, who serves on the state Republican Executive Committee out of Harris County, has been talking about him the most expensive third place race, and I have to absolutely agree with Rolando. He's a smart man, smart man, and he spending the amount of money he's going to be spending to try to save his ass, it might cost us the races in other parts of the country because he's going to try to save his ass in the primary. And all these people from DC are going to be funding him, spending money that we need to be saving for November of next year because of the hubris of John Cornyn. John Cornyn is going to lose this election. He's not going to win. No amount of ads coming from his super PAC Texans for a conservative majority and those people tied to President Trump that are helping this particular political action committee to make it seem like he's some sort of MAGA first Republican because he votes supposedly 99% of the time with Trump. Yeah, maybe as of late, but let's not talk about the deals that he made during the Biden administration and all those votes that he had. So I think it's very important that people realize that John Cornyn is not going to be the nominee. It's going to either be Ken Paxton or Wesley Hunt. I was asked over the weekend by a reputable friend of mine. I consider her a friend from Harlingen, one of our power players in the Republican Party, and she asked me, where am I at? And I'm just like, I I I'm uncommitted right now. I'm not voting for John Cornyn. I think there needs to be a change in that particular position, but am worried about losing in November of next year. And I'm not so sure that Ken Paxton is going to be able to win in November because of the baggage that he has. At least back when he ran for Attorney General against what's her name? Rochelle Garza for Attorney General, he was able to win, but not as big a margin as other people. There was a little bit of a red wave in Texas in 2022 that allowed him to be able to win. He would be at the top of the ticket as a U.S. Senate candidate. He is at the top of the ticket. I'm not sure him being at the top of the ticket is going to translate to a complete victory. So that's why Wesley Hunt is in this race. He's hoping that Cornyn suffers and the conservatives that might like him go over to Wesley Hunt, and he have enough people like, myself and others who are a little concerned about the past of Ken Paxton. And I listened to Ken Paxton along with this individual from Harlingen at the Hidalgo County Lincoln Reagan Day dinner, and I didn't come away impressed or blown away by Ken Paxton. And so, I will, no matter who the nominee is, I vote for that person. I will support that person, even if it's Ken Paxton or Wesley Hunt or John Cornyn. But as a person who's commenting on the primary, I am a little concerned about this primary and who will ultimately be the nominee.
So it's not far-fetched for Paxton Hunter
Hunt.
to be in a runoff?
No, it's not at all. In fact, I right now I predict it.
And okay, and who do you think comes out
out
of that one?
I honestly think Wesley might be able to pull it off, especially if Cornyn people come out and vote for him. But never underestimate the power of the grassroots, who seems to really, really like Ken Paxton.
Okay.
I'm not predicting anybody in this race right now because we still have 4 months to go till the primary. But at this point right now, it's going to be a runoff between Ken Paxton and Wesley Hunt.
We're just brainstorming. No, it's not like if people. It's not like if we're being watched by the whole world. Okay. Again, I'm going to press you on this. So you say a runoff Paxton Hunt. I'm assuming you're thinking you probably don't want to commit to saying that Paxton will come out of that. Who do you think? Who do you think has a better chance of beating a Democrat?
Okay, wait. If I'm betting right now, I think Ken Paxton wins the runoff.
Okay.
That's why, and now I'll give you my reasons why. One, he has a very experienced political team around him, the Axios team, who have won statewide elections. They have been the team behind Senator Cruz. They have their network. Ken Paxton has the history, more name ID amongst the party base than a Wesley Hunt. Also, Wesley Hunt has this baggage of what was pointed out, how he misses votes, and it's very hard for a congressman to win statewide office. It just is. I mean, we have another congressman, Chip Roy, who's running for AG. It's going to be difficult for him to be able to win statewide. That is who I am leaning towards supporting in the primaries, Chip Roy. But again, you can point to all of his votes and his fighting with Trump. I mean, if I'm Ken Paxton, I'm going to look at every single possible vote that Wesley Hunt has ever done that doesn't support the president of the United States and say he's not MAGA, I'm MAGA, and vote for me. And I think that benefits him. And so I think right now, if I'm betting, Ken Paxton's going to be the nominee.
But you think he'll struggle against someone like
yes, I think he will have difficulty.
Allred or
maybe not Allred. He would. I don't think necessarily James Tallarico. I think there was a story somewhere I read, and maybe
about the porn OnlyFans.
That might be a problem for him.
I think it was a good explanation though.
What was his explanation?
So for those individuals that aren't aware, there was a report this weekend that James Tallarico, who came and spoke at our city of Brownsville a few weeks ago, that his social media, his Instagram, he was actively following OnlyFans content creators, that explicit content creators, porn stars, maybe XX rated star, or what did Eric Flores have on his campaign? Male escort, or what did he have? Escort entertainer, XX entertainer, or what did he have?
No. I think it was an exotic dancer.
Okay, something like that.
So me laugh right there.
so many people started to question. Here we have James Tallarico, who is following these content creators. That looks bad on him, and what his team responded was, "Oh no, it's because we're looking for platforms for pages that have a large number, and we want the algorithms to grow, and we want to post on their media because whenever it's funny, social media, whenever you a person like let's say Roman, he's got 100,000 subscribers, 100,000 followers, and he comments on my page, it the algorithm kicks in and it allows for other people that possibly wouldn't be looking at my page to have new set of eyeballs. That's the explanation that he gave, which I kind of understood.
Wait, what? His explanation was I only follow him for the views?
Something like that.
Like,
Something like that.
That's stupid.
Yeah, that's what I understood. That the only reason why he was following those pages was because he wanted to latch on to bigger platforms.
Whatever. And that makes him crass and a political person. He's supposed to be above the fray. James Rodriguez is supposed to be a Christian man. He can read the Bible. I remember I've talked to a couple of elected officials, Democrat elected officials, locally. They may not be Democrat. They're Democrats, but they may be nonpartisan office holders. So I'm not don't assume it's just Democrats. Who's like, oh well, James Rodriguez was very impressive, Roman. I mean, he talks about the Bible, and he might be able to get those people and communicate as to why he believes the way he believes. I mean, did you listen to his talk about how Christians should be pro-choice and his explanation and on Joe Rogan? I mean, he's a great person. I mean, he had so many people, Roman. I mean, there was even people at his event, and that was a Republican. There was a young Republican that was there listening to him, and the little guy that was working on Gus de Leon's campaign, he was there. You don't think that's impressive, Roman? I mean, if this man is attracting that kind of a person to come listen to him, I think it's interesting. You know, that's what they're arguing, but no, that's a stupid point to be making, that, oh, I'm only following them for the views. I'm only following them because they have a lot of people that will watch them. And I didn't notice the porn that they were potentially posting online. I didn't go visit their website or anything like that. No, I'm a Christian man. I go to church every Sunday. Yeah, right. Sure.
Yeah, to me, it's going to be a hard sell. To me, it is going to be a hard sell. Like, really? Now, could it be blamed on a staffer? Hey, I don't run my social media platforms. I have somebody that, unbeknownst to me, was following XXX Star while I wasn't made aware of it. I understood the argument, but I could see where it could affect him down the road. Mm-hmm. Governor Abbott last night spoke in the city of Houston, Roman. He announced for re-election. Mm-hmm. How do you see the current state of the state of Texas? We have our very own, what is it, NASDAQ 500 in the city of Dallas. He compared the strength of Texas, economically speaking, being larger than various countries. I think he said it's the 7th largest in the world. How do you see the current state of Texas, Roman? And how do you see him dealing with someone like Gina Hinojosa?
Yeah, no, I think he's going to be Gina. I think it's going to be more millions of dollars being spent in Cameron County. I think it's going to benefit a lot of Republicans. It's Governor Abbott running for re-election and having the amount of money he's doing and the amount of money he's spending is the reason why people like Steve Guerra is still considering running as a Republican. And why he thinks that, I'm not speaking for him. I don't have any inside information, but, reading the tea leaves and things like that, that's why Steve Guerra wants to run as a Republican, because he is a conservative. He may be a conservative Democrat that has realized the Democratic Party has left him, and he understands, and I think I've said this before on the show, he understands that a Republican as county judge in Cameron County received more attention and more money and more support from the governor's office than, let's say, a Democrat. That's why, Eddie Trevino, being a county judge Democrat, constantly attacking the governor's office, even though he likes to pretend that he's a conservative or that he plays footsie and plays nice with the Republicans. That's why they don't get the attention. I mean, you have Richard Cortez, who's the county judge in Hidalgo County. He goes and he attends. I've seen him personally at Governor Abbott's private fundraisers in Cameron County, of all places. And so you have these individuals that are Democrats that want to play footsie, but Steve Guerra is being smart about, hey, if I run as a Republican, I'll get even more attention. and Cameron County will be even in a better position. So that's why he wants to potentially run as a Republican for county judge. And he also doesn't think that Mauro Garza is going to be able to beat Eddie Trevino. He's not going to win because he has no ties to Cameron County. That's his argument. Now, the argument that Mauro would make is like, well, I've been doing the work. I'm a Republican. All the Garrett Street people know who I am. I've been doing the block walking. Mauro, can fight. Mauro, what's his Mauro delivers. Delivers what? I have no idea because he's never held elected office to deliver. But he says he delivered. That's his slogan. That's his idea. That is what Mauro Garza believes. But that's so because of all this, Governor Abbott is going to spend more money in Cameron County. Over the weekend, there was a real big push to have one of our people that wanted to run for an office, pushing her to offering her essentially millions of dollars to run for a state house seat over the weekend. And the reason they were happening was because they wanted to push her out of a race and run over here because they understand that Governor Abbott is going to spend a lot of money, a lot of money.
Could you
in
say
the
who?
valley. I'm not going to say who. I won't. Let her, unveil it. But it goes to show how much pressure they're under to find a candidate in that particular reason, because it is House District 35. It is a Trump +7 seat, and they really want to fund somebody. And the idea that they want to push millions of dollars into that race only shows what Governor Abbott wants to do in the Rio Grande Valley, and that's going to benefit countywide candidates. And that's why over the weekend they were, and I'll tell you, I got called at 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Now, 9 o'clock in the morning, when people started filing their paperwork at the GOP headquarters, I was not there. I did not attend. But I got a call from a Democrat within 2 hours, 11 o'clock in the morning. Woke my ass up because I wanted to sleep in a little bit, right? I'm just kidding. I was already awake. I was watching football, getting ready to watch football. But he called me and told me what happened at the GOP headquarters. How the hell did a Democrat know that stuff? Why did a Democrat know what was going on at GOP headquarters before I did? That tells me that there are some people that might have been in there that talk to Democrats, and it's not Roman. And there are people that might have been there a spy, finding out what's going on in the GOP. And why? Because Democrats are concerned about what's happening in Cameron County. They want to know who's running for office and who's filing for office in Cameron County, because they want to know if they have to be able to support their Democrats. And that's the thing. I don't think their Democrats have the money to support down ballot candidates in Cameron County, which is why you have individuals supporting candidates and trying to find people to run in various offices. There are several people that are running right now as Republicans that I have selected, or have asked them to file to run in either one or two spots, and they've decided to file for whatever race they want to run in, because I believe in getting these candidates. The county chair may not be doing those things, but I'm certainly doing those things. So I'm glad that people are filing, but there is a lot of emphasis in the Valley because of Governor Abbott. He announced in Houston. He announced on the east side of Houston, as my friend Rolando, who I referenced earlier, Rolando Garcia, the state Republican Executive Committee man from the Harris County. He pointed out that Governor Abbott did it in the east side of Harris County because he wants to flip Harris County. He wants to flip Harris County, and don't best believe that Governor Abbott wants to flip and keep the Valley red, because President Trump won the Valley. So I guess you could say it's red. But make sure that the Valley goes red, and he's going to fund candidates and support his campaign against Gina Hinojosa. And what is Gilberto Hinojosa going to do? Gilberto Hinojosa is having to support his daughter, Gina Hinojosa, from his first marriage, her run for governor, but he's also going to have to provide money to support his wife, his second wife, Cindy Hinojosa, who's the justice of the peace here in Brownsville, because there will be somebody running against against her. There is going to be somebody who filed to run against Mary Esther Sorolla, the daughter of County Commissioner Sofia Benavides. Somebody's running against her. There is somebody running against Bo Ochoa over at JP in Precinct 1, which is the Republican-leaning precinct. So we're going to make Democrats be on defense. Now, do I think it's a smart idea to have Republicans run in those three races because they're not, having the Ochoa family, the Benavides / Sorolla family, and the Hinojosa family being active even more so to try to save their positions. I'm not sure I like the idea, but it will make Democrats have to spend money and defend those areas to try to win those areas, to secure those areas. And then what will happen into the other parts of Cameron County? Will they be able to defend Gus Ruiz for county commissioner, who will have an opponent, at least one opponent in the Republican side? There are two people running in that office for that office in precinct 4. You have David Garza, who's a JP over in San Benito, who is apparently not going to run for reelection, so that'll be an open seat. You have Chuy Garcia, who we all suspect is going to be running for judge in the 107th and not running for reelection. That'll be an open seat. So that means Democrats are going to have to spend money over there to defend those 2 seats, and we will have 2 candidates running in there. We also have an individual, a good dear friend of mine, who ran previously as a Republican a decade ago, and has come back and decided he's going to run for county clerk. And so there will be a county clerk candidate. We have an individual that's running for county treasurer, who has a degree in finance, who is a wonderful family woman out of the Harlingen area, who's going to run and going to face off whoever the Democrats nominate. Then Democrats have their own races. They have Sylvia Garza Perez running against Denise Garza. They're going to have a bloody, mean primary. Not bloody, we're like real blood, but you know what I mean? Like it's figuratively. And then you have David Betancourt, who has a challenger in Jonathan Gracia. They're going to have a fight in their primary. It won't lead to a runoff, but they're still going to have a fight. So whoever comes out of there, will they be able to sustain their victory going on into November? Or will we Republicans unite, and I hope we unite behind all these candidates and support them and hope that we can win in November of next year? Because Cameron County is at the precipice of a deep change. And the change that's happening is not going to be caused because of Deborah Bell, our crappy ass chairwoman. It's going to be because of people like Governor Abbott, who are funding candidates down here in the valley and making sure we have the best candidates possible. And it's going to be people like myself and you, Frankie, who are going to support all of these Republican candidates as they run for office in Cameron County. To make the change necessary. It's not going to be because of the Cameron County Republican Party led by Deborah Bell, because she's just a nobody. She's just there. She's just taking space.
Interesting points you make. Again, we are 4 months away. We're already we're already at the middle of November. We're 4 months away from the primaries in February, March. A lot of seats are up for grabs, and if I can just go over the names very quickly that I can remember in regards to Steve Guerra. Steve Guerra is the port commissioner. He is waiting to the 11th hour. There is talks of him jumping into the Cameron County judge race. That's not a secret. The question is whether he's going to jump red or blue. The difficulties that I see someone like Steve having is, he is an active Democratic precinct chair. He has fought for the past 4 or 5 years of getting someone like Vicente Gonzalez elected. He has had his run-ins. He's butted heads with a lot of Republicans. Are they able to put their differences aside and get behind him on his quest to dethrone first to come out of the primary and then ultimately dethrone someone such like Eddie Trevino in November? The question that I want Steve Guerra to answer is, if I come out on top of the Republican primary, if he were to run on the red side, will I endorse the congressional candidate for District 34 in his area in November? That to me is paramount. We all know the closeness and relationship that he has with Vicente Gonzalez. Does he know something that we don't? Is he willing to align with the Republican Party, who he has fought actively against in previous years? Maybe he knows, maybe he thinks, maybe he suspects that Vicente Gonzalez doesn't run. And that opens the door for him to switch parties. Again, I'm just thinking hypothetically. But if Vicente were to stay in the race, the key question that I want Steve Guerra to answer, and I want Deborah Bell to answer this as well, because whoever comes out of the primary for the Republican Party of District 34 for Congress, we need to support. We need to get behind wholeheartedly. And I would expect that someone such as Steve Guerra, who will be switching parties and is asking the Republican Party to make amends, the only logical thing that I would ask for is to endorse the congressional candidate, whoever comes out
Hmm.
for the
And that's a
Republican
fair
Party.
question. I mean, and if I'm Mauro Garza and I expect him to do this, I expect his team to do these arguments, asking, posting. I could already see this, a picture of Chente with Steve Guerra, him hugging him, endorsing him, and say, will he support the Republican nominee for Congress? As a mailer to every Republican primary voter. That is really the only hope Mauro has in order to be able to beat Steve, I think. And that's a very interesting point that you're making about Deborah Bell. Will she support whoever the nominee is there, considering that she is supporting, it seems like, not officially endorsing, but darn right supporting Eric Flores for Congress, sending out direct messages to people. You posted on your show, go attending only Eric Flores's campaign events. She is yet to attend any other event for any other congressional candidate, and I've been to pretty much all of them, or at least seen pictures of all of them, and asked, was she there? She's not. She only goes to Eric Flores's events for whatever reason. Is it? And I think it's because that's who she supports. Also, that is what she has told at least one of the congressional candidates, Freddie Hinojosa, that she supports Eric Flores, and intimated to supporters of Luis Buentello, who is also another congressional candidate who has ties to the Valley to Brownsville, but lives in Corpus, and told that there's his supporters. No, I'm with Eric. He jumped in too late. He came too late. I'm with Eric. And so, will she support them? I mean, she does have a history. She does have a history of not supporting the Republican nominee. She did that with your Theo. When Erasmo Castro ran in 2022 for County Commissioner Precinct 2, I was at the water park, where the Drainage District water park on Old PI. Adam Hinojosa was having an event. I happened to have I was going to go out block walking for Erasmo Castro, your Theo, because I love and adore him and support him. And I asked her, hey, here's some stuff for Erasmo. Please go block walk for him. Please support him. And she said, no, I'm not supporting him because he wasn't Republican enough. And I was taken back by that. So but that was before she was a county chair. Now she's going to be the county chair, the different role. Maybe she'll have a different, a change of heart. She may not even file for re-election. I haven't been able to get, an answer whether or not she's even running for re-election as a county chair. Maybe she decided she has more power and influence not being a county chair or being involved within the party. That maybe she's not going to run for re-election. I don't know. Maybe somebody can ask her if she's running for re-election. Who knows? And even if she does run for re-election, I think there's at least one person out there that's considering running against her, and will probably run against her. We'll find out in next few weeks, because the deadline is December 8th. But those are very good questions you're asking. And I want to be clear about what I was saying earlier about the millions and millions of dollars that was offered to this candidate. It wasn't that they were offered the money to them and say, hey, here's your money, it's yours. It was, we will offer you millions of dollars to support your candidacy and help fund your campaign. And that's what's been offered. And I got to say, to the person who said no, that I was asked to run for this office. I want to run for this. I think this is where I need to go. I'm not quite ready to be state representative, even with all the money that they were offering for her campaign. The fact that she said no speaks volumes about her character and her conviction, and why I think she needs to be win her primary in the Republican primary in March. And ultimately, I hope she wins in November of next year and serves as a Republican for the citizens of Cameron County.
Interesting stuff. It took 40 days for a consensus to be agreed upon. It's interesting to learn how it seems as if
she's watching, is she?
The American people, the American people are pawns. The Democratic Party were so steadfast on making sure that the government would not be reopened unless Medicare or healthcare for all was on the table. It took 40 days for 8 rogue Democrats to finally say enough is enough. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't realized already, those people saying that they are vouching for you, that they're fighting for you, they have used us as a political pawn. Maybe it's time for us to start looking at individuals that are going to fight for our best interests moving forward. Roman talked about many important races here in Cameron County that will ultimately shape the dynamics of our future in the years to come. Get involved, be part of the process, investigate these candidates, and ask them the hard questions, because ultimately it is people like them who they could put us in this pickle again or could get us out of it when we need them the most. Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Frankie. This is Roman. Good Morning Brownsville. Make sure you tune in to subscribe to our YouTube channel titled Frankie Olivo TV. Good Morning Brownsville will come on Monday to Friday, 9 a.m., sometimes a little bit after, religiously. So make sure that you subscribe to all of our social media platforms, but more importantly, subscribe to our YouTube page titled Frankie Olivo TV. Have a great Monday. Peace.